Hey everyone, welcome to the Restorative Reading and Writing for Wellness podcast. I'm Stephanie, a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of books and notebooks as tools for wellness. Reading and writing can help us feel better and make life better too, and I'll show you how I do it. You'll find episodes exploring the research behind reading and writing for wellness, practical strategies to embrace your own restorative reading and writing, and you'll meet authors and special guests who help us take inspired actions in our own daily practices too. So grab a notebook and your TBR list and let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Restorative Reading and Writing for Wellness. I'm Stephanie, and I'm here with what might be my new favorite kind of episode. I love looking back on all of the different kinds of episodes I've had over the years and seeing which ones resonated the most with you. Now, when I look at the trends that I see that guest episodes are typically downloaded fairly often, which makes sense because double the members are sharing them with their audiences. The second most downloaded set of episodes focus kind of shockingly on writing and journaling. Shockingly, because this was originally just a book podcast. But now, the most quickly growing downloaded kind of episode is this one. My personal, off the cuff, keeping it real book apothecary discussion for each month. You loved the ones I shared in April, and so now I am back to share with you my personal book apothecary for May. Now, last month, my word was release. If you listened to that episode, you know that I was working to release things that no longer served me. Physical things, mental things, spiritual things, all of the things. And I found that as I did that, and I am pretty proud actually of the work that I did throughout the month in relation to that one word theme, I found I had more space for something new, more space for new possibilities. And so when I received an email from Omega, which is this really beautiful retreat center in kind of upstate, downstate, New York, I knew this was going to be my word for May. I knew it instantly and I knew it early. Here's a little snippet of what that email said so that you can see how I got my one word theme for May. It said, "This month, we encourage you to reflect on what hope means in your life right now and how that understanding shapes the way you move forward. What are you willing to believe in? What feels ready to emerge? And how might hope guide your next step?" Such a great paragraph, right? Such a beautiful email to get rather than the junk mail and all the bad news that we get in our inboxes. And so when I read that, and I instantly started thinking about those very provocative, very important questions as I saw them working their way into my journal, I knew that hope would be a perfect one word theme for me for May. And so that's what it is. Hope in all its forms, hope in whatever form it turns out to mean to me based on this exploration and just this idea of filling up space in my life with things that matter, things that feel good, and things that, yes, feel hopeful. So for my book Apothecary this month, I have a longer list of books than I usually do. I usually try to select 3. I have many, and pun intended, I am going to be hopeful to read them all because I think they are going to help me define a different area of hope in relation to this overall idea of what this word means to me. So, what are those books? Well, the first one, I admit I have already read. I got a head start on this word because I loved it so much. And my book calendar for my private community was coming out a couple of days early. So, the first book I want to recommend that is going to be one of my top books of 2026, if not ever, is Ways to Find Yourself by Angela Brown. This book has a quiet power to change your life. This book offers an invitation to rewrite and re-examine and rethink your past so that you can better appreciate your present and have hope for the future. It's stunning. Okay. It is about Grace, and Grace's life is coming apart. Her mother has just passed away. Her husband has just left her. She cannot, for the life of her, write the novel that she is supposed to write, and she just doesn't know what to do with herself. Because of some signs from the universe, she ends up back in a town called Seadrift, which is a beach town in New Jersey where her and her mother used to summer for a week together every single year since she was a toddler. It means so much to her. She has so many memories there. She's a little torn about going because it will be the first time she goes without her mother, but she decides to go because things just can't get any worse. But here's the thing. When she gets there, she starts to see earlier, younger versions of herself throughout the beach town. One time it is her 12-year-old skee-balling self at the arcade games. Another time it's the 16-year-old version of her that is seemingly falling for the boy that she sees every summer. Another time, it's a 26-year-old version of her trying to write that first novel that ended up being a hit, and so on and so on. It reminds me of a Rebecca Searle kind of novel, like In 5 Years, or gosh, what's the name of the one that is set in Positano and she sees earlier versions of her mom? It reminds me of that. But as she meets those earlier versions of herself, she looks at her life differently, right? She is not the same girl who she was. She is someone with a new dose of perspective and wisdom, and so it starts to shift the way she thinks about herself, her past, her present, and yes, her future. It is just such a beautiful book. And so that's why it is first on my book Apothecary. Yes, I've already read it. Unfortunately, you can't get it until the end of May. I did get an opportunity to read an arc, I believe. Um, unless that's the Rachel Linden novel that now you're going to know is coming next. But anyway, get this book as soon as you can. Ways to Find Yourself by Angela Brown. Now let's shift to an older book, right? My apothecaries are not always the current most sought after books. They are backlist books that could really embrace a theme and help me. And I think Viola Shipman's books all have threads of hope on the pages, but this one in particular is calling my name. It's titled, quite aptly, The Hope Chest by Viola Shipman. So this is a book, and again, I have not read this one yet, but looking at the publisher's description, this is a book where Maddie, the main character, she's been diagnosed with ALS, and the independence that she used to pride herself on is slipping away, right? She can't really navigate through her home. She can't go on her beloved boat ride. She can barely even feed herself. Things are just really difficult. But when Rose, her new caretaker, and her younger daughter, Jerry, come into their life to help, oh, there's just new possibilities for life and for happiness and for all of the things. Now, the hope chest comes into play because as they go through the hope chest that is in their family home, they see each of these new items, favorite dolls, dishes, an apron, antique Christmas ornaments, and that hope chest connects all of them together and helps them find hope in the face of their overwhelming life challenges. You see why this one is on my personal book, Apothecary for Hope, especially because I am lucky enough to have my great grandmother's hope chest. My husband is lucky enough to have his grandmother's hope chest. And I've always been obsessed with them since I was a kid because I know my grand and great grandparents always put such wonderful, special things inside. So that's The Hope Chest by Viola Shipman. Now, another book that I am pulling from the backlist is The Prayer Box by Lisa Wingate. Do you have a prayer box? I do. Only one of them. It was gifted to me by my daughter. I had given it to her, and she turned around and gifted it back to me at a time where I needed it. I was just so enchanted with the idea of what a prayer box was. I still am. But in this book's main character is an elderly woman in her 80s, and she has a prayer box for every meaningful year of her life. And by meaningful, I say she needs to be old enough to understand what a prayer box is and really use it. And so she has 81 carefully decorated prayer boxes, one for each year. And hidden in those boxes is the story of her life, the hopes, the wishes, the fears, the dreams, all of the things. And we uncover her life, we uncover hope for ours by seeing what she includes in her hidden prayer boxes. I fell hard for this description when I was creating my Hope Bibliotherapy book calendar for my private Substack circle, and I knew this was going to be one that made it to the top of my list. Okay, this next one. I have had this next book pre-ordered for months. I already gave a little slip of the tongue and gave it away earlier, but it's Rachel Linden's newest book. It doesn't come out until the end of May, so I will have to wait just a little bit longer, but it is called A Sprinkle of Sweet Serendipity. Let me read exactly what the publisher has to say about it. Paris-trained chocolatier and single mother Emmy Wynn gave up her own dreams 6 years ago when she returned to her Pacific Northwest coastal tourist town to run her family's struggling candy store. Now, on her 34th birthday, Emmy only has one wish: to be granted the vision that every Wynn woman is given once in her lifetime, a shimmering glimpse of her true destiny. This year, when she blows out her candles, it finally comes true. Her vision is more delectable than she could have ever imagined. Her very own artisanal chocolate shop filled with decadent truffles and caramels, and her celebrity crush, Henry Summers, down on one knee. And when Henry suddenly arrives in town for the summer, offering Emma the opportunity of a lifetime, the future in her vision suddenly seems possible. But a rekindled connection with Jacob, her former high school best friend turned hunky, brooding, tattooed baker, forces Emmy to grapple with a bittersweet realization that her destiny may not be what her heart truly longs for. As the culmination of her vision draws nearer, can Emmy find the courage to create a happiness of her own making? I fall hard for every Rachel Linden book that there is. There is just something so thought-provoking, so emotional, so human in these books, even though there is a bit of wonderful magical realism in them. I just always connect with the characters every single time. I always have some sort of nudge from the pages from my own life every single time. And typically, I end up baking something after I read her books every single time. And I have a feeling that this book will be no different. Okay, I have one last book on my list. I have one nonfiction book. It is a memoir that just screams hope at the top of this book's lungs. Okay, this book is titled 29 Gifts: How a Month of Giving Can Change Your Life by Cami Walker. So here's the setup for this one. At age 35, Cami Walker was burdened by a battle with multiple sclerosis, a chronic neurological condition that made it difficult for her to walk, to work, or just enjoy her life. Seeking a remedy for her depression after being hospitalized, she received an uncommon prescription from an African medicine man: give to others for 29 days. This book is the story of what happened when she did just that. as she embraces and reflects on this naturally reciprocal process of giving and receiving. Now, most of the gifts that she ended up giving away were simple: a phone call, spare change, a Kleenex. Yet those simple acts were transformative. And here's the thing: by day 29, not only had her health and happiness improved, but she ended up creating a worldwide giving movement. So, this book chronicles that journey. It includes personal essays from others whose lives have been changed by the better because of that giving. And it even gives us a space to record our own journey of giving too. So, it's part memoir, part journal, part challenge, part all of the things. And I can't think of a better way to explore hope in our lives by first giving it to others and then having it come back to us, probably twofold. So, those are the central texts that make up my apothecary this month. But even though I already have a good stack going, that doesn't mean it's set in stone. If you have ideas for me, if you have book recommendations for me, please send them my way. And if you want more books focused on this hope theme, head to Substack, join my private restorative reading and writing circle. It's just $5 a month, and you will get a downloadable calendar with one book recommendation for every single day in the month of May that embraces this hopeful theme. Okay, those are the books. You know that in my book Apothecary, I love pairing the books I read with notebooking prompts, with ideas for inspired action, with things to love, just all different ways to really bring the word to life. So this month for me, in terms of my restorative writing, I'm focusing on two kinds. There are 8 kinds of restorative writing in the framework that I have created, but this month I feel like 2 are particularly important for me in exploring this feeling of hope. The first is gratitude journaling. Listen, I have always been the kind of person who tries to plan everything. And by plan, I mean overplan. I just want things to work out. I just want things to go well. And that means planning for what I think will happen and then scanning my life for all of the different possible things that could go wrong so that I can avoid it happening. I know there are many of you who do the same things, but the problem is, right, when that is how your brain works, it can be harder for you to truly see and notice the good, to be grateful for all of the things that you are too busy overlooking because you're trying to avoid the next problem that probably isn't even going to come. That is hard for me. I wish it wasn't, but it is. But when I do that, when I focus on the good and I focus on the gratitude, everything really does change. I've already done a wonderful job at bringing a 5-year journal into my life. I'm on the 5th year. Yes, I wish I started it much earlier in my life, but I didn't know about it. So it's never too late. I'm on the 5th year of that journal, and I've gotten better at pulling out at least one good nugget from the day and tracking it. But this month, I feel like I need to go deeper. So I'm going to use my weekly planner as a way to capture even more things that I'm grateful for, even more recent, specific things that I am grateful for to change my mindset so I can better see the hope that has already arrived in my life and hopefully, yes, pun intended, make it easier for me to think about it in the future. So my weekly planner is the size of a traveler's notebook. It's just a little, well, I shouldn't say little. It's tall, but narrow. A tall, narrow traveler's notebook. It's purple. It has 12 blank monthly spreads and then a whole bunch of weekly spreads where the days of the week are on the left side and a dot grid page is on the right just to capture things. And so I've changed what has gone into this weekly journal multiple times in 2026, and I'm okay with that. I need to figure out exactly what I want my weekly planner to be. So for this month, I'm going to experiment with tracking hope, with finding gratitude, and putting those, if not in the weekly spread, at least in that dot page notebook paper on the side so that I can track the good and track the hope that I see. Now, the second kind of writing that I want to lean into are letters to my younger self. So last month we read Janae Cecilia's poetry book, Healing for No One But Me. If you don't know that book, you still might likely know her because she is the one that started the viral TikTok trend, I met my younger self for coffee. It was inspired by one of her recent poems. And so I leaned into that idea in her poetry book. But when you combined that with the Ways to Find Yourself book in my Apothecary, where she literally met her younger self at different aspects of her life, I realized I couldn't ignore this. This was the kind of writing perhaps that I was meant to lean into this month in order to feel more hopeful, to meet all of those past versions of ourselves through the lens of love, which was also a focus of my release theme last month, and with a kind heart. So I hope to spend some time in my notebook writing letters to all sorts of earlier versions of me, whether that was me as a 6-year-old kindergartner or me as a 45-year-old mom not too long ago. I want to explore what this kind of writing could feel like. I don't tend to do it, and that's why I think I need it this month. So, those are my two kinds of writing that I will be focused on: my gratitude journaling in my weekly planner, and letters to my younger self in my notebook. Now, moving on, I've talked about what I want to read, I've talked about what I want to write. Now, what I want to learn. There are two big things I would like to learn to do and at least start to do in the month of May. One of them is to take yet another stab at a vegetable garden. So last year, if you've been around for a while, I actually tried the garden bucket method on my deck, where you literally just put different plants or seeds, depending on how scratch you're starting from, in buckets or little garden bags, and you just scatter them around your deck, and it's easy peasy, as long as you keep your Great Dane away from your peppers, which I did not. But it worked pretty well. I really enjoyed it. I was really pleased with myself that I got to eat my own tomatoes and peppers and strawberries. And so I was going to do it again, but my oldest son commented that it would be really cool to actually start a real garden, like raised beds, special fencing, all the seeds, like go all in. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. I have absolutely no idea how to go about it. I'm hoping I can rely on him for some research. I'm going to go into the Internet Archives. And of course, I am reaching out to you. If you know how to make this process as easy and simple as possible, please share. Please share and send all of the good vibes, the good garden vibes that you can. Now, the other thing I want to do, I am so embarrassed to admit this, but years ago, 3, probably 4, gosh, I hope it's not 5. Years ago, I bought a course on how to make things on Procreate. If you don't know Procreate, it's this really cool software that is on your iPad with an Apple Pencil, and you make things. You can put hand lettered quotes, you can make your own calendars, your own coloring pages, your own printables to display. I I've wanted to do this for so long, so very long, and I was so proud of myself when I actually purchased the course, and it's still one of the very last things in my email inbox. And so I'm putting this out into the world. I want to get started on this. I need to drop a chunk of change on an Apple Pencil or some sort of knockoff, but I'm going to go deep into the email inbox, find that course, cross my fingers, it's still there and still available, and just start creating. I would love if all of you would hold me accountable. Lean in later in the month, send me a text, an email, direct messages that say, hey, how's that Procreate project going? I'm going to need it, truly. Okay, Last things to love. There's one thing, especially, that I love that I am not only going to try to make, but I have been watching on repeat ever since Christy Zimmer shared it with me. Christy Zimmer has been on our podcast. She is the most wonderful journal page, notebooking page creator that blends this perfect balance of white space and color and reflection to make notebooking joyful and very insightful as well. And she posted this little short video on her YouTube channel about hope. But she didn't just talk about what hope meant to her. She talked about what hope meant to her as she was creating the most adorable little hope notebook. So picture this little tiny notebook where the first four pages are actually the letters HOPE, kind of fanned out, and then a couple of other pages after that with this beautiful little string stitch. It's just gorgeous. I'm putting links into the video in the show notes, but here's why I love it. As she defined hope, talking about the research behind it, she reminded me that hope is about two things: believing and doing. Now, for me, hope is always about the belief. I hope for something. I wish for something. I pray for something, right? I just hope that things will get better. I hope something will happen. But Christy and the research she cites reminds us that hope is also an action. And the teeny tiny little hopeful steps we take in any given moment can pave the road ahead for those larger things we hope will actually come our way. So I've really been thinking about the two sides of hope, believing and doing. And I really want to see if I can end up making one of those hope booklets. Hers is beautiful, but I know she'll appreciate the effort. So Christy, let's see. Maybe I'll bring a hope notebook at one of our next creative check-in meetings. Okay, everyone, there you have it. That is my one word intention for the month of May in 2026. I am exploring all things hope and hopeful. I have a beautiful stack of books to put on my book Apothecary. I have two kinds of restorative writing to lean into: gratitude journaling and younger letters to my younger self. I've got a couple of things to try to learn: that garden, that procreate, and I'm going to keep that definition of what hope means to me, along with a little dose of hopeful creativity as well. I would love to know what you think of my book Apothecary, so you can head to the show notes for this episode and leave me comments on the Substack post. I'd also love to know what your one-word themes are for the month. Maybe you're already in my Substack Restorative Reading and Writing Circle and you're exploring hope along with me. Or maybe you have a different word that is meant for you in this particular season. I'd love to know what those words are. I would love to know what books are ending up on your apothecary. And just like I asked you for some nudging, let me know if I can help you and I can nudge you and keep your goals this month front and center so that we can keep moving forward together. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Restorative Reading and Writing for Wellness podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Get Literate Substack community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking inspiration, live events, giveaways, and much more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content, too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. But there's one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish and notebookish community, too. Thanks for listening, everyone.